Okay, so I got another tech audio product to talk about today. I saw that the CMF Buds 2 came out. And if you know anything about the CMF brand, it is a sub-brand of Nothing, which is a brand founded by Carl Pei, who came from OnePlus. And they've been making phones, they've been making earbuds, and accessories for a while, and I've never really been interested enough to try any of them. But when I saw that the CMF Buds 2 came out, and they were pretty inexpensive, I thought, maybe it's time to look at budget earbuds again, because I did the Ear Fun, Air Light, and that was fun in a way. But I hadn't really considered what the go-to recommendation is in that category. And so I did a little bit of research, and it turns out that what a lot of people recommend are the Soundcore P40i. These are about somewhere between 40 and 60 bucks. Their retail price is $70, but they're almost never that price on Amazon, and even on their website they're usually on sale or there's a coupon code or something. So I picked those up while I was waiting for the CMF Buds 2 to arrive when they were available, and I played around with them, and I have some thoughts about both of these buds. They're similar in some ways and they're different in some other ones. So if this interests you, keep watching, because I got more to tell you about these two buds. Okay, so now we have a view of both buds in their cases. The Soundcore is a very simple case, simple black. It's a little curved. It's got the USB-C port on the back. It does have wireless charging. The CMF Buds do not. The case is more fun, I guess you would say. It comes in more fun colors. It comes in this green, and it comes in an orangey red color as well as black. And on more expensive models of the CMF Buds, they have dials that actually do something. This one's really just a decorative feature. It does have a lanyard hole in it. There is a lanyard hole right here. So if you wanted to attach a lanyard to it, do people do that? I've often wondered. I don't. But it's there if you want it. This case does not offer wireless charging. It looks like it should because it's got the same kind of flatness, but nope. It does have a better battery life on paper than the Soundcore Buds. The Soundcore Buds offer 12 hours with just the buds and 60 hours with the case, whereas the CMF Buds claim to offer 13 and a half hours on a single charge, so that is better. The cases are about the same size, relatively speaking, except that this one's curvier and this one's a little bit more squared off, but it is flatter, so this bubble shape takes up more space on the top. Which one's going to fit better in your pocket? Honestly, I'm a woman. Nothing fits in women's pockets, so it never matters to me. It's going in a bag or a purse or something. But if that matters to you, this one's thinner. This one's bubbly, but it's not as wide. So you've got that choice to make. So the cases are very different, as you can see, but comparable in size and shape. The Soundcore Buds have a stem style shape, as you would expect. Most of these budget buds do have the stem style shape. Actually, I think the shape is taking over. I blame Apple for that because I prefer the buds that don't stick down and out of the ear, but the stems do give you an opportunity to have additional controls if the manufacturer wants to go that route. The only real unique feature of this case here is this phone stand. So I guess really if you're a fidget person, you can fidget with the dial or you can fidget with the phone stand, but a phone will fit here. I can take my phone. It'd probably be better if I take the buds out. So let me do that. And I can stick a phone in here and it'll sit. It will not work in portrait. It will just topple over. As you can see, it's not gonna stay. So it needs to be in landscape, but that does work. If that is important to you, who asked for that? Did any of you ask for that? You've really been wanting to watch video. I guess if you're somewhere and you have your buds and you don't have a case with a phone stand, like this one doesn't have a phone stand on it, I guess it's a feature, it's here, but it's another little fidgety thing that you can play with, which, if you're somewhere just with your buds, at least you've got fidgety things. The CMF case is very basic. You got the buds here. They're turned sideways. There's nothing really else special here about this case. It's just a case. So those are the physical features of the buds. They both have stems, as you can see. They're both stem style. They don't have squeezy controls. They just have tapped controls on the little dials, on the little circles that are on them. Of course, I took them out. On the little circles. They both have 6 microphones, and they both claim to have microphones that will use smarts, AI, clear voice technology is what CMF calls it, and Soundcore claims that they have some AI features with their microphones. The microphones, I have samples. You'll hear them at the end of this video. I'm going to tell you right now, spoil it for you. The CMF Buds 2 have better microphones. You're going to hear kind of a similar refrain as we go through this, because really sound is probably what you care about if you're buying budget buds. If you're really concerned about active noise cancellation, you probably are willing to spend more, but I can tell you that both of these buds do reasonably well with active noise cancellation. The CMF Buds claim to reduce by 48 decibels, and the Soundcore claim to reduce by 45. That's pretty close. They aren't going to reduce all sound, but if you're sitting in a relatively quiet environment, like you're at home or you're in an office, it's going to reduce the sound of your heating or your air conditioning. It's going to cancel out a little bit of buzz of people talking, but voices are still going to come through. You're still going to hear ambient sound, but it's going to be reduced. They do pretty good. If you're in a quiet space, it will sound quiet. If you're in a noisier space, it will reduce the sound. So if you just want something to take the edge off noise, these will both do really well. But if you're looking for something, Bose level sound cancellation, yeah, you're going to have to spend a little bit more money, probably at least $100 to get noticeably better noise cancellation. But these both do very adequate, basic jobs at reducing ambient sounds, especially low hums and reverberations. So they both have apps, and I will show their apps in a little bit, but I can tell you that the apps are pretty similar. They both allow you to tweak controls, your tap controls. They both allow you to tweak EQ presets and EQ settings. They both allow you to update firmware if you need to update firmware. They really are pretty similar at a basic level. Now, some of the features of the earbuds themselves will vary because the apps obviously support a variety of different headphones. They're both kind of weird about single tap. Really, double tap is like the default. And I get it. They don't want people to do accidental touches. I prefer single tap for play pause. And whenever I can set something up that way, that's what I do. But I'll be honest with you, I hate touch controls. I don't use them a whole lot. But if that's important to you, do know that you have a little bit more flexibility with the Soundcore. So microphone performance is similar, but clarity, you'll hear, I think, with the CMF is a little bit better. This is an audio recording test with the CMF Buds 2, a sub-brand from Nothing. These are noise-canceling Bluetooth earbuds that come in some interesting colors and offer a different look than your average Bluetooth earbud. They claim to have 6 microphones with AI. So how does it sound? Again, this is the CMF Buds 2. This is the test using the Soundcore P40i, a budget audio option from Soundcore. These are noise-canceling Bluetooth earbuds. They have 6 microphones that claim to reduce noise. So how does this sound? Again, this is the Soundcore P40i. And it's kind of similar with the sound in general. Now, these are both tuned for mainstream consumer audiences, which means you're going to tend to have a sound curve that's got elevated bass and a little bit of dip in the mids and then come back up for treble. Now, in some cases, that dip, is pretty noticeable. With the Soundcore, the bass is pretty elevated and you come down. It's going to show you in the app that the default is neutral. Ha, they lie to you. They lie. it really is elevated in bass. And if you like bass, then that's really good, especially if you want buds for workouts. That bass can help get you moving and pumping, right? So that's beneficial. But if you're trying to hear strings or voices or piano or anything that's kind of in that mid to treble range, the bass is going to be more prominent. Now that's true of both of them, but it's especially true of the Soundcore out of the box. Now Soundcore has a fantastic app when it comes to EQs, which you'll see there are more options here than there are with the CMF. And here I'm going to take a little rant break and complain a little bit about the CMF, the Nothing app. If you like EQ tweaking, like if you're used to, like, let's say a 3-band or a 5-band or 7-band equalizer where you're used to, having the little dials and you slide them up and down for, bass and mids and treble as you go, you don't want these because they're annoying. The EQ is more of a bubble where you can kind of control, the bass, mids, and treble a little bit. You can have, an adjustment, so, you can turn bass up a little bit and it'll pull the bubble this way. You can have treble and it'll pull the bubble that way. You can do mids and it'll pull the bubble that way. It's unlike anything I've seen. Normally I'm used to either you get EQ presets or you have the bands, or if you're really, really fortunate or you spent a lot of money, you get parametric EQ, then you can do all kinds of stuff and completely mess up the sound if you want to. But what they've done here, I'm assuming that they're trying to make it easier. But again, if you're a person who's used to the 5-band, which is a pretty standard equalizer feature in mid-range to high-end earbuds, then I think the bubble system they've got here is annoying. Now, someone's out there thinking right now, JP, I love that feature. It's so neat. Okay, I'm happy for you. That's great. I will tell you what it reminds me a little bit of is the Neurophones, which are now owned by Denon. They had that colorful bubble that showed you kind of, where your sound preferences tended. And the colors were intended to show intensity, and the shape of the bubble is to show kind of a similar thing with bass, treble, and mids. That's kind of what it reminds me of, but without the color, without the appeal. To me, I'm talking about me. You might like it. But they do have EQ presets, and you can customize it a little bit. I guess I'd call it a 3-band equalizer, ultimately, because you have bass, treble, and mids that you can control, but you get a lot more control here. You've got a custom EQ, and then you've got a whole bunch of EQ presets, and you have Hear ID. Now, I'm going to say, if you're used to Hear ID on Soundcore's premium products, like the Liberty line, the Liberty Pro line, this is not that. It will give you a hearing test, but it's not tailored to your hearing as much. And when I say hearing, like normally you think of a hearing test, it'll test your left ear, your right ear, and then it'll give you a combined profile based off of how well you hear. This one is more based off of how you hear in total, and it doesn't break it out by left ear, right ear. And if you've been watching my channel, if you've seen any of my other audio reviews, I have imbalance. I have hearing deficit in my left ear. So this wouldn't do anything for me. Now, I didn't buy these with the intention or the expectation that they would do anything for me. But again, if you're used to Hear ID, this is not full Hear ID. I'm going to call this Hear ID Lite. But it's there, and you can end up with a custom EQ that's tailored to what the app has determined you hear best. Where you need amplification or where you prefer amplification, it can do that for you. So you have options. You have Hear ID, you have the presets, and you have a custom EQ. So this is much more full-featured in terms of being able to tailor your sound on paper, because I'm telling you, these are almost always bassy. Bass reducer will probably reduce it the most, but most of the other ones, acoustic, jazz, the ones that you wouldn't expect to be bassy are still even bassy. So if you love bass, the Soundcore is for you. Now, the CMF, they have what I'm going to call a more in-your-face sound. The sound is fuller here. You get more presence and more air in the sound. And if those words don't mean anything to you, I sincerely apologize. I know what it's like to watch audio reviews and be like, what are these crazy people talking about? It is so difficult to describe audio products without you being able to hear them and understand the context for what I'm saying. But the sound here is clearer. There's more clarity. There's more air and presence across the frequency spectrum. The bass isn't overwhelming the rest of the frequency range as much. So it feels like everything is there up front, whereas because of the bass boost on these out of the box, everything else feels a little bit more recessed. So the sound overall feels like it's back a bit, if that would make any sense. And I apologize again if it doesn't. It's just the best way I can say it is these have more fullness in the sound. They have more clarity in the sound. I would take these over the Soundcore all day, any day. But I'm going to tell you that the difference is not night and day dramatic. It's noticeable if you're looking for it. But if you're the kind of person who just puts earbuds in and goes about your day, you just put earbuds in because you want to take the edge off noise at work, you're putting earbuds in because, you're doing housework or you're taking your dog for a walk, it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about those details. If you're not paying attention to them, you won't notice them. But if you're the kind of person who notices the breaths of a singer or an instrumentalist who's taking a breath before they blow into their horn or their whatever they're playing, if you care about the sound of plucking guitar strings, or if you care about some of those details, then yes, you're the kind of person who really even shouldn't be shopping in this price range. But I understand that even audiophiles or people who really care about sound want some buds that they can just throw in and go, right? I think that if you're a person who cares about detail, you're going to want to go with the CMF. Not that they are so much more detailed, but I think that the sound that's presented here is just fuller and more, I'm not going to call it neutral because neither one of these are neutral, but the bass is just a little bit recessed from here, which allows everything else to shine just a little bit more. I hope that makes sense. All right, let's carry on. I'll show you the app next up. So here we are in the Nothing app, and you've got the information on battery information at the top, the case, and the left and the right buds. We've got the noise cancellation section. I have it in off right now, but you can turn it on or you can leave it in transparency. Spatial audio, I have played around with this. If you're familiar with spatial audio on other headphones or earbuds, it's the same kind of concept. It's intended to put, I'm going to call it artificial space and sound, so it feels like you're in a room and people or sounds, whatever you're listening to is spread around as it would be if you were in a live space. Sometimes spatial audio is effective. I think it's more effective with spoken word than it is with music, unless music was designed for spatial audio, so I don't use that a lot. It could be fun to play around with it, but I don't use it very much, and I know a lot of other people say the same. But if you like spatial audio, it's here. There are multiple levels to bass. I've got mine on level 1. There are the equalizer settings. So the default is the direct Optio, which I think is pretty nice. But you have options, and here you've got that crazy bubble style thing that I was talking about. You have this big circle, and you've got these dials. So if I select one of these options, it'll take it out of Dirac, and then you can see there's mid at the top, there's treble at the right, and there's bass. So the pop is aiming a little bit more towards treble, a little less bass, a little less mid. You've got rock, which takes mids down a little bit, treble, it's more to the treble side, classical, also more to the treble side, a lot less bass, electronic, a lot more bass, quite a bit of treble, but mids and treble are kind of behind bass. Enhanced vocals, which aims at a little less bass because most spoken word is in the mids, so that's pumped up a little bit. You can customize it, and here's where you can create your own little bubble. So if you want to raise mids, if you want to raise treble or lower bass, you get your little bubble floating around however you want it to look. So you have options. And this is all you have in terms of customizing the EQ and making it to your own liking. So it's either these presets, or it's custom, or it's direct. I keep it in the direct audio because that just works best for me. You can customize the controls. You've got double tap, triple tap, tap and hold, and double tap and hold. You've got options in all of these. The options are, I think, the same left and right, if I'm not mistaken. You've got options that are a little bit different from each one. Tap and hold, double tap and hold. And you'll see some of the options are repeated just in case you've used one for one thing and you still want to be able to use it for another. You've got that option with a lot of these. The right settings, double tap, triple tap. Only thing I've customized is I changed double tap on the left bud to allow me to play pause. So I've left everything else in factory mode here as it came out of the box. So those are the controls. And then you've got your settings where you can turn in-ear connection detection off or on. If you're the kind of person who doesn't like in-ear detection, I think most people have gotten used to that concept thanks to AirPods. But if you don't like it, you can turn it off. You can connect to multiple devices. There's a ear tip fit test, and you can find your earbuds. So it's a pretty decent app. I don't really have any major complaints other than the equalizer bubble. Otherwise, this is, a relatively full-featured app, especially for budget earbuds. What do you think? Okay, here we are in the Soundcore app. You got P40i here at the top. You can see your battery levels for left and right in the case. First up, you've got ambient sound controls, noise canceling, or normal or transparency modes. You do have more options here, though. You can set adaptive ANC. So if you're in a quiet environment or a noisy environment, it should, in theory, be able to adjust to that. You can also do manual mode. You can customize it to your ear canal. And you've got multi-scene where you can say, okay, well, I'm traveling. I'm on a plane. I'm on a boat. I'm in a bus. I'm outside, or I'm inside. So you've got different options for ANC here that you didn't have in the Nothing app. Then we've got our sound effects, which is where you've got all your EQs options. And so we've got the Hear ID. If you do your Hear ID test, it will give you a curve based off of your hearing and your preferences. And mine is, you can see, tailored towards mids. You have the EQ presets. So the default is theoretically flat. It's not flat, but theoretically flatter. You've got acoustic, which reduces mids a little bit. You've got bass booster. If you really want to go all out, you can go there. If you want to reduce the bass. Classical, again, recessing mids a little bit. And so those are the defaults, but you've got a whole bunch of other options too. Podcasts for spoken word. You've got electronica. You've got jazz, piano, treble booster, treble reducer. A lot of different options here to play with. There are even more in the higher end Anchor Soundcore products, but this is pretty good for budget. And then you've got the ability to customize the EQ in this multi-band equalizer, and you can come in and you can change, and it's showing you the numbers, so what you're reducing or adding. And if you want to save these so that you can use it across devices, you will need an account, but you can come in here and create a custom EQ to use on this device, whatever device you connect it to. It's just that if you do have it connected to multiple devices, you won't have the ability to save it without signing into the account. So just keep that in mind, but you can come in and recreate it because it's pretty easy. You don't have a ton of bands here. You've got 8. So that's custom EQ. We have immersive experience. So if you want to reduce latency for gaming, you can do that. If you want to make things more dynamic, you've got movie mode. You've got controls. People always care about controls. Yes. So you've got your single tap options. You see volumes there, play, pause, double tap. Pretty much the same thing. Tap 3 times. These are all pretty similar. You will see different ones on tap and hold. This is here you can do ambient sound stuff. And it's pretty much the same on the right side. Single tap, double tap, triple tap, tap and hold. And then you can't change your call controls, but they are here so that you know what they are. And then you've got a neat feature, I think, here with the the decibel range on what you're listening to. So if you're playing music, and you can come in here and see how loud it is, because if you're at those lined 90 or 100 decibel ranges, if you're there, you don't want to be there for very long, you'll damage your hearing. So you can set this to real time or 10 seconds or 1 minute. So if you come in here and you just want to watch what your decibel readings are, you can do that. That's pretty neat. And you can limit the volume if you're concerned about listening at a high volume, and you should be because you don't want to damage your hearing, then you can control that here as well. So quite a few options. In the settings, you've got a fit test, and you can change the tone of the prompts. You can set whether or not you want to be connected to two devices at once. You can set the auto power off settings. You can find your device, and you can control the widget, or make settings for, it tells you how to control the widget. And that is pretty much it. You can update the firmware. That is the Soundcore app. It's pretty full featured. Again, for a budget option, this is really good. A lot of budget earbuds don't even have apps, so that this one has an app and you can do this much with it, I think it's pretty good. What do you think?